Hi guys, welcome to our final project presentation. This is Ocean.
And this is Ty. And today we asked PSU athletes where they're from. That's interesting. That's interesting data right there. Um,
So for this assignment, we decided to once again ask PSU student athletes where they're from. And this is because Ty and I are both student athletes, so we thought it would be really interesting to analyze the variability between students and where they're from as we're directly connected to the community.
yeah, I mean, we found some interesting stuff in this data too, and I think it's because we're both student athletes, but we do different sports. I run track, which has a huge international pull, I think, to the U.S. And she does soccer, which it's really it's more local.
Right. Most of my teammates are actually from Portland or Beaverton, Westland, very much in the area. I'm from California, and I know that we have maybe like five girls also from California, but then again, it's still very skewed, I would say.
Yeah, and we didn't just stick to interviewing like our own teams though. Like we did, I tried to keep it random. I basically stood by the door next to the cafe and just asked random people as they're if they're wearing PSU gear. I just asked like, where are you from, real quick. You gotta answer this. You gotta answer this survey.
You stood next to the door?
I stood next to the door. Stood there for probably. I mean, I had to get 50 people. I was there for a while. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay, dedication.
Right.
Me, on the other hand, I went to the study hall where I knew there would be a plethora of student athletes, so that's where I got my data.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more efficient. I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to keep it random, but I should have gone with your tactic.
Hey, as long as you got it done, we're good.
Oh, we got it done. We got it done. We did have to, speaking on the athletes from other countries, we were kind of originally planning. I don't know why. We were originally planning on keeping it in the U.S., but we decided to broaden it just because we got enough responses from overseas athletes. So we did have to decide how that would affect our data and analysis.
So, first off, we began with constructing a table that basically analyzed places and then the number of athletes from each place.
Yeah, it's organized here from most to least. Some interesting stuff here is that there are more people from, say, Somalia and Kenya than from a lot of U.S. states. So I thought I was the only New York answer. Ocean had friends in her California answer. Yes, we answered
Yay.
our own survey, all right? It's allowed.
Okay, so first off, we began with constructing, well, I guess kind of trying to find what the best average would be. So we took the mean, median, and mode, and then um, basically found that the mean was the best way to determine the average number of athletes from a certain place. And this was because the other options were the median, which is 1, and then the mode, which is also 1, whereas the mean was 4.7. So, I don't know, I felt like that was an obvious answer.
Yeah, like half of our states or countries only had one. I think there was only one country with only one outside of the U.S.
Right.
So yeah, median and mode are pretty much useless. I guess they're not useless. Mode tells something interesting that it's diverse. So but that's just not a super relevant piece of data. So here we got this. We threw it out into a bar graph. I think it's helpful for interpreting a few stories. We can see that there's a lot of PSU athletes that are originally from here in Oregon, and we also see a lot of diversity. It's a long list. We can see Oregon, California, Washington. So these the West Coast states are really dominate this picture here. Kind of see a similar thing on this next graph here with the scatter.
Right. Scatter plots are helpful because it helps us determine if there's a positive or negative correlation describing the bivariate data. So here we can obviously see that there's no relationship present.
Yeah, pretty similar to the last graph. This is the pie chart here. It's my favorite graph. It's very colorful. I like colors.
Nice, nice colors.
Yeah, nice colors, nice pretty colors.
All right.
And we can kind of see here again that Washington, California, Oregon. Of course, unfortunately, they're not next to each other, which kind of sucks. But if they were, we'd see over half of the data is going to come from those three places there.
Right, and this graph is perfect for answering questions about percentages. So, for example, what percentage of the number of PSU athletes were from California or some other specified area. This would be a great story to tell by this graph that we would have a harder time seeing in other graphs.
Yep, and there's my little New York sliver there, 1%. Represent. Hey, I'm representing on this list. All right, come on, guys. Next, we broke this pie chart down into in-state versus out-of-state versus international, and we suddenly see a whole different picture.
Right.
Before we were seeing, it really showed like Oregon like really dominating these graphs. Now it's only taking up a quarter. 70% from out-of-state, 6% international. Oregon's suddenly just a slice of the pie now. It's not dominating so much anymore.
Right. What was originally our outlier became a smaller sliver in comparison to out-of-state areas.
Yeah. So yeah, if someone wants to know, what percentage of student athletes are from in Oregon, we can see right here, 24%. Out of Oregon, 76%. You got to add the international and out-of-state there, but that's pretty easy to do.
Right.
I think at least. All right, so this next graph is the box plot. We gotta dive into this one a little bit more. It's a little just less intuitive. I've always found these, though they make outliers more obvious, which I definitely like. So what this box plot does is it helps us understand the distribution of student athlete birthplaces, and it really shows the locations that contribute significantly more athletes than others. So first we got to look at the box itself. That represents the middle 50% of our data. And it shows that most states contribute a small number of athletes, typically between 1 and 5. This tells us that PSU recruits from lots of different states, but most locations only send a handful of athletes. So now we can look at the median, which we talked about before, which is marked by the line on the side of the box. The median is the typical number of athletes per birthplace, and we can see it's on the lower end of the scale. This reinforces the idea that most states don't send large numbers of athletes to PSU, only like a select few are kind of carrying the bulk when it comes to sending a large amount of athletes. Next, we can notice the whiskers there, which extend to show the range of most athlete birthplaces as they indicate, and they show that there is some variation, but most states fall within a pretty small range of athlete contributions. What really stands out are the outliers, and that's why I like box plots. The dots outside the whiskers show locations that contribute way more athletes than the typical state. We can see Oregon, Washington, California, we've been talking about all night, are real standout outliers there, which means they produce more student athletes than a majority of the states. Oregon in particular is taking on a heavy load of that. So what does it tell us about the bigger picture? PSU recruits heavily from a few key states, while most states only send a small number of athletes. Second, if PSU wanted a more geographically diverse athlete population, recruitment efforts would need to expand beyond just those states that they really dominate in, though I don't know that that actually is a goal. Finally, the presence of outliers confirms that recruitment is highly concentrated, meaning a select few states play a much larger role. This visualization makes it clear that while PSU does have athletes from many places, a small number of states really do
stand out.
Yeah.
So now looking at the distribution of athletes per state, in this graph we can see that most states actually send 0 to 5 athletes. Now this is different from other graphs because it just really looked like there was a wide variety in ranges of states that, whoa, excuse me, I literally had like a hairball in my throat. Something happened.
Yeah, you're good. No one's going to blame you.
Right.
We'll edit it out. No, we won't. We're keeping all of this. We're keeping all of it.
So there's actually a smaller amount than what it looks like in comparison to the other graphs. And so if the goal of PSU is for balanced recruitment, then PSU actually may need to increase their efforts in states that currently contribute very few athletes. So this was in the states like Alabama and Texas, where we just didn't recruit nearly as many from, or no, we recruited way more from like Washington and California and Oregon, whereas these other states we could do a better job at being more diverse. So basically this distribution is heavily skewed, and it shows that recruitment is heavily concentrated within a few states.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's telling like it kind of displays the information a lot differently. It's telling a similar story, because it is the same data, but we've really been focusing on how like California, you know, Oregon, Washington, like dominate this map, or dominate these graphs. But we look at this one, and then that big graph, that's all the little states,
Right.
right? So they're really they're kind of taking charge of this graph here.
So, for our key takeaways and final thoughts, we found that there's a strong in state presence. Oregon contributes most athletes that go to our school. But Washington and California are also serving a role in this recruitment process.
Where are we? I was not paying attention. Limited geographic diversity. Yeah, there's you know, the majority of student athletes come from a small number of states, mostly on the West Coast. International representation is also pretty small, only 6%. But you know, that's not too small. I guess it is. It's pretty small.
I wonder what it is. I mean, considering that we're a smaller school, I wonder what it is in comparison to like a U of O or a UW.
Yeah, it's not a super like diverse state either in terms of people from other countries. It's a pretty local state. Other states, sure, but I think that's why we saw Somalia having a couple more ticks, like you know, good immigrant population from there. So
Right.
there's definitely explanations for this.
I mean, there's some good takeaways from that. So, like, PSU's recruitment is favoring local and regional talent. Like, I don't know, personally, being from California, that limits opportunities for out of state people. But at the same time, like, if you grow up in the area, then it's kind of nice that you're able to also do college in state, and that involves tuition and all other factors.
For sure, yeah. I mean, to my knowledge, schools in general, you know, they're mostly going to pull people from the areas that are close to the school,
Right.
within the kind of surrounding states. I think that's super common. I'm not surprised that the data looks like this. So just, you know, final thought, you know, I think this project really helped us visualize recruitment trends among the student athletes at PSU. And by analyzing the data, we can see where athletes come from and also identify opportunities for more diverse recruitment strategies should that ever be a goal in the future.
Right. So, thank you for watching and listening, I
Yeah,
guess.
thanks for your time, you know. Should we say something at the same time? We did it on the last one. I think we should say something at the same time.
Okay, what are we saying? Should we say, like,
Let's
bye?
just say thanks for watching.
Okay, ready?
Alright.
1, 2, 3.
Thanks for watching.
We totally just blew the mic out.
We nailed that. No, we nailed it.